Dear subscribers and viewers of our channel, it is very important for us to understand what you like and what you don't like. Please do not hesitate to share your opinions in the comments.
I got married at the young age of 24 to my college sweetheart. I was naive and thought providing men having bills always paid on time, or roof over our heads, being able to eat well and still go out to eat once a week and maybe a moderate family vacation once a year and a romantic couples weekend or two a year. Her idea of providing was much different. She thought that being the wife of an engineer meant no budget needed to be adhered to. That we could go on 2 moderate vacations a year, 1 couple's vacation and somewhere extravagant. Oh, and free reign with the credit cards. This picture in her mind was partly because she came from a family that seemed very wealthy. That was until her father was prosecuted for some kind of securities fraud and, fearing that the fund would continue, committed suicide. And that's when she and her mother fully learned what need is. All their property, including real estate and deposits, was seized in her father's affairs. Her mother never worked a day in her life. And it was necessary to live, pay the bills and pay for the education of my, then not yet known to me, the future spouse. The situation was saved by her boyfriend, or rather, as she told me, he was not her boyfriend at that time, but just looked after her, but she at that time, considered him only as a friend. When her father died and they were left without money, he offered to help her, including financially. Whether he spent a lot on her or not, but while they were together, about 2 years, he completely and quite well maintained her. Moreover, even her mother, who never went to work, got some. Alas, it all ended one day. Suddenly a search came to their home and to his work, and this friend of hers was sent away for 8 years for fraud with crypto. Coincidences like that would make anyone crazy. In general, she fell into a deep depression and was really close to suicide. However, that's when I showed up. A night in an old white pickup truck. I must say that at that moment my old pickup served me much more effectively than if I had tried to glue her in a BMW of the latest model. Because at that moment she didn't want money, she wanted peace of mind. Well, at that moment I was able to give it to her. And in return, I got an adorable friend with a chiseled figure and incredible blowjob skills. However, I think we were both still very naive at the time. We both named the same price, but were operating with different currencies. You quickly get used to what you have now, and a person always wants what he doesn't have. When my daughter was not quite 4, we had a big argument about spending and that we both needed to grow up and be more responsible. She disagreed and said she shouldn't have any limits to what she spends or what she does. She wasn't working then, and she suggested she went to grad school so she could help out more financially because she wasn't willing to make those sacrifices. I said okay. So I worked full-time and spent more time alone with my daughter along with paying her tuition while she went to school. She met someone, a friend. She mocked him, calling him a nerd at first, but talked about him non-stop, saying he's never had a girlfriend and that he was a 29, turning 30 soon virgin. She actually introduced him to me. Eventually I caught on she was having an affair. Called her out it and called him up. Don't ever do this, bad idea. And I remember telling him stay away from my wife. You can't afford her, you have no idea. So we went to counseling where I was berated by her in front of the counselor and basically forced to admit that her affair was my fault for her to stay. Never, ever do this. Also, before attending counseling, understand thoroughly how it works. If you're the one that is willing to bend or wants to be married more than bend over. A few months go by and he's still having contact with her. She blames him. He's the pathetic lost puppy. So I said we should move. I left a job with a great company in an attempt to keep my family together. So we moved 1,200 miles away. The first day at our new apartment, we come back from dinner to see a dozen roses delivered at our door. My job required travel and some weekend work as well. Long story short, on those weekends where I was gone, he was flying in and spending the weekend at my place. I asked for a divorce and moved out. Our divorce was final in a few months. 3 days after the divorce was final, he moved to within a mile of my ex-wife. They moved in together about 6 months after that and got married 2 years later in 2020. They are still married. You know what? He can afford her. God bless him. I often think now that God constantly gives us some clues, but we don't see them, or rather we don't want to see them. How blind and distant do you have to be? How many times do you have to step on a rake to understand something? First her father, then her boyfriend, and now another stockbroker. The only question is how much is enough? Yeah, and where was he when I was in college? Apparently he had a lot of time on his hands since he never dated in college or as a young adult and learned how to build wealth quickly in the stock market. A few months after the divorce, it gave me a new perspective. Never get upset if you are dumped or ghosted or if someone isn't interested in you. It is much worse to be stuck with a toxic person. And I just now realized the meaning of the anecdote where a father asks his son who has just lost his innocence, "Son, tell me, after what you had, did you realize what the most pleasant moment in communication with a woman is?" "Of course, father. The sweetest moment is when you have sex with her." "No, son. The most satisfying moment with a woman is when she leaves."
Thank you if you listened to the end. Subscribe and like. Bye.
Dear subscribers and viewers of our channel, it is very important for us to understand what you like and what you don't like. Please do not hesitate to share your opinions in the comments.
I was an OTR driver for 15 years, 1994 to 2008. In all that time, maybe 5 or 6 times did lot lizards proposition me. 3 of those stick in my mind. First one. I had just pulled into the T/A in Santa Rosa, New Mexico about midnight. It was still hot, and I had the window down while I finished up my logbook. She stepped up onto the running board and flopped her bare boobs, and nice boobs they were, onto my window armrest. She just smiled and batted her eyes, and I couldn't help but laugh, while telling her I wasn't interested, and held up my left hand so she could see the wedding ring. She removed her boobs and covered herself up, but didn't leave. She wasn't at all like 99% of the lot lizards I had seen prior to that time. She was maybe 28, really pretty, and talkative. We talked for a few minutes, then she said, "Well, back to work, nice talking to you," and climbed down and disappeared into the maze of trucks. Not your typical encounter with a lot lizard. The more I thought about it, the more I came to believe that she was part of a Vice team. I had never seen her there before or after, and that was a regular stop for me. Because they had the best breakfast buffet. The second time was at the same place. This one couldn't have been more than 16, drugged so heavily she could barely walk. What made her memorable was that instead of asking me if I was interested, said, "You wouldn't want to have me, would you?" When I told her no, she seemed relieved and stumbled away. The third was in Sacramento. There was a little fuel stop or convenience store with room for maybe 10 or 12 trucks to park. I had my 8-year-old son with me and had just loaded. It was about 3:30 p.m. and I parked at the edge of the lot. We went across the street to a burger joint and got something to eat. We carried the food back to the truck, and while we were eating, this nasty-looking woman comes and assumes I'm going to indulge her. I tried to tell her I wasn't in the least bit interested, especially since my son was sitting there, and she said we could close the curtain. Then she demanded money. I told her to get the hell off my truck. She did, but a few minutes later, a car with a few unsavory individuals parked across the street, and she went over there and had a conversation with them and a couple of times pointed at my truck. I had planned to overnight there, but decided that was not a good idea, and we left and drove about 50 miles to the nearest large truck stop, and luckily found a place to park. That was the last time I ever visited that place in Sacramento. During my career, many times I saw them roaming through the truck stops, but I guess they had enough business from those who were interested that I escaped their notice.
Indirectly, break 19. For a good time, you hear it anytime you go by a decent-sized truck stop. You would be surprised at the number of lot lizards that make their living jumping from truck to truck. I was. Never thought there would be that many, and when the economy gets bad there's way more that show up. Direct a few will go around and knock on doors. That happened a few times, being woke up by someone wanting to fluff your pillow or give a midnight ride. Hell, I have had a few start hitting on me, and had a few offer free service dash. Crazy story. I was in AZ, still green lot lizard knocks on the door. I always tried not to be rude. I get up out of my bunk, and come out to the driver's seat to give me a second to gather my composure. I opened the door, and she was really pretty, like took me back a bit pretty, which usually is not or wasn't the case 85% of time. She looked at me as I stared. "You're a truck driver?" Without hesitation I turned my head around toward the cab, and said, "I'm the only one in here, so I guess, I am today, tomorrow might be different." Now I'm not the typical view of a person you would see in a truck. I am pretty fit, good looking, and even have all my teeth, which crazy enough was the same reason I was astonished at her. Anyway, being I was gonna get up in an hour, I turned her away, and told her I didn't spend my money on services. She smiled and went about her business. I got dressed in my day clothes, and got my pearls polished, was walking in, and the girl comes running from between the trucks from making it about 1/4 down the row, working those door handles. She said, "I normally don't do this, but can I come get breakfast with you?" "Sure." Expecting she might have had a slow night and needs a warm cup of coffee or something, breakfast. Anyway, we started talking, and I didn't care for talking about me much. Always found that PPL are way more interested in themselves than my shit. So here I am listening and having a great conversation with this beautiful lady for breakfast, and she tells me, "Hey, she's a lawyer." "What?" "You're a lawyer and your sideline is a lot lizard." WTF. She said she makes the same, if not more money escorting is what she called it. I said, "At a truck stop?" She shook her head and said, "I'm a good-looking woman, and don't like attachments." Needless to say, I did agree with her assessment. I finished my meal, and she took the check from me and paid for my breakfast that morning. Told me thanks for the conversation and being a gentleman. I never saw her after that. Damn, she was a pretty lady. I always wondered about her, and her career as a lawyer still baffles me now thinking about it.
Yes, many time. Of course I say no every time. Too funny one. It was about 5 a.m. I was getting ready to go and was taking a leak behind the truck. I heard voice saying, "You looking for good time?" I wearing aids, so sometime I don't pinpoint where voice coming from. I heard voice again saying, "Excuse me, I'm down here." I look here, it was a midget. I said, "No, gotta go." The second one was at a truck stop. My lady was with me relaxing before going to bed. We watch a stretched yellow taxi Cadillac or checker cabs. Was going to each truck and finally came to us. She came to my truck, climb on steps and ask us if I'm looking for good time. She seen my girlfriends. We said no. LOL, the taxi driver had to be breaking law, I'm sure.
Thank you for listening to the end. Subscribe and like. Bye.
Dear subscribers and viewers of our channel, it is very important for us to understand what you like and what you don't like. Please do not hesitate to share your opinions in the comments.
I just read a roundup about cheaters and thought I should share this. It's special. I had a charismatic and self-deprecating male coworker who was great at seeming sincere and harmless. I'm going to call him Richard here because his name is similar to D#K. He sent me some poetry over text. Richard.
I'm in love with you.
Me. That's very nice, but you have a wife and don't really know me. I started spending time with him. In retrospect, this was probably because I was sad and lonely and appreciated the attention and flattery. I had to have firm boundaries. He was always trying to cheat with me. I really towed the line, though. I let him have an emotional affair with me. Richard.
My wife wants to open up our marriage.
Me, your wife likes me a lot. I like her, too. I bet she would be fine with us actually dating. Richard.
I don't want to be polyamorous.
Me. That's the only way I will ever sleep with you, though. Richard.
What's the difference?
Me. You tell me. Richard.
I just can't stand the thought of her with someone else. Besides, she doesn't trust me. I found her trying to look through my texts because she thought I was cheating on her. I screamed at her. It was a huge betrayal of trust.
Me. But she was right. I stopped spending time alone with the guy after that. A couple of months later, I was sitting with the dishwasher at work. I was a manager. The two of us had vehemently not gotten along, and I decided to extend an olive branch. We were now vibing. I'll call her Dishy here because she was the best at dishwashing, to a point of pride. Dishy. I thought you hated me. Richard told me about the things you would say about me. Me. I could say the same thing. Let's compare notes. We found that neither of us had been #talking the other, and the quotes were the same. Dishy. It seems like he made us enemies on purpose. I don't know why. Why would he do that to us? Me. Maybe he wanted to avoid our communicating. To what end? Do you have secrets with him? She tensed up. I decided to pry. Me. Richard sends me poetry. He tells me he loves me. Dishy. I can't believe he would cheat on me. That's why he didn't want us talking. When did you two start sleeping together? How many other people at work are sleeping with him? Me. I can think of a couple of people that might be involved, but it hasn't occurred to me that he would have cast a wide net. How does he have the energy? He seemed to be fixated on me. I've edited so many swears out of Dishy's response because censoring them while typing on a phone is hard. Dishy is a master of colorful language at the best of times, so use your imagination. Dishy. I can't believe it. I thought he was in love with me. Me. If it makes you feel better, I didn't have sex with him. No offense to you, but I didn't want to hurt Richard's wife. Besides, if someone cheats with you, it shouldn't be too surprising when they cheat on you. Dishy. Oh, I'm such a jerk. I'm good friends with her. Should I tell her? Me. She deserves to know. A few days later, Richard called me up to say he had to move in with his mom on the other side of the country. After determining that I wouldn't go with him, he gave me several gallons of homegrown smokable green stuff since he couldn't fly with it. This was a surprise. I ran into Richard's ex-wife at the grocery store and apologized. She said she'd had her bags packed and was just waiting for confirmation, and she thanked me for encouraging Dishy to tell her the truth. She left for a bit, but she decided she wanted the house. Richard kept sending me poetry for a couple of years until I blocked him out of pity and disgust. I never told him how I'd orchestrated his demise. He was livid at Dishy. Meanwhile, I made off with an obscene amount of green stuff and his continued admiration. He'll never know unless he reads this site, and even then, he has only himself to blame. I never saw him again. Dishy is doing well. She is an extremely talented metal worker, and I see her around sometimes. Richard's ex-wife is doing fantastically. I also have a great partner who is very monogamous. The restaurant we worked for recently closed down. I never made it through all that green stuff.
Thank you for listening to the end. Subscribe and like. Bye.
Dear subscribers and viewers of our channel, it is very important for us to understand what you like and what you don't like. Please do not hesitate to share your opinions in the comments. Hello, friends. Today we are going to tell you a story that was sent to us by one of our subscribers. If you like it, comment and send us your stories. And if you don't like it, comment and send us your stories too. We'll be sure to publish them.
My friend Olivia was a very ordinary girl. She was never beautiful, but she was smart. She was lucky to meet a good, decent young man. After a while they got married and lived together as a family. She was 25 years old at the time. Olivia got a job at a big firm as an accountant. Well, as you probably know, such a job requires a lot of time and dedication. She worked 8 hours a day, just like any other normal person. But she couldn't cope with the amount of work she had to do, so she would come home late. She was constantly lost at work, and there was no time or energy left for her family. But her husband didn't mind, because he didn't work anywhere. So they lived only on her salary. So she worked for about 2 years, time passed without notice. And then Olivia began to catch herself thinking that she was looking at her boss and even tried to flirt with him. Olivia had never received much attention from men. However, she was well aware that she had a husband, but at work she was oblivious to everything except her boss. She came to me for advice on what to do. At that stage of the relationship, she could still stop everything and not do something stupid, which I advised her to do. But apparently she was expecting some other advice from me, but she still agreed and said she would do that. She would end all relationships except the work one. Then I learned that Olivia was continuing a workplace affair with her supervisor. Less than a week later, they had their first kiss, and another week later they had dinner at a cafe. He then offered to give her a ride home, and casually brought her to his house, where they had their first love affair. When she arrived home, she said that she was late, as it usually happened, at work, finishing the annual report. Her husband believed her, because he had no reason to doubt his wife's words. It's a pity, of course. The office romance was developing rapidly, and lasted for another 6 months. And then the unexpected happened. Olivia began to feel ill. She started to vomit. She came to me again for advice. I advised her to take a pregnancy test. She laughed and said it couldn't be. So I decided to buy one myself and personally supervise her taking it. So that's what I did. Went to the drugstore, bought it, and went to visit her. Sent her to the bathroom and waited for her to do it and come out. I was very scared and worried about her, hoping with all my heart that the test was negative. But alas, no miracle happened. She, of course, became hysterical, because she did not even know who the father of the child, and it was probably the most terrible thing in this whole situation. There was nothing to do. She went to the hospital, where she was told that she was already 2 months pregnant. She started calculating on the calendar and concluded that she had no one except her boss during that period of time. At that time, her husband went to visit his parents, as his mom was very ill, and he stayed with them for 2 weeks. Olivia thought for a long time what to do and decided to go to work and tell everything to her lover and part-time boss. And he started yelling at her and blaming her for everything. He claimed that it was not his child and that he could not have children, although it was a complete lie. He began to insult Olivia, claiming that he did not know who she was sleeping with and where else, but he had nothing to do with it. The friend did not expect such a reaction from him, and was dumbfounded by his words. Running away from the office, she cried for a long time, not knowing what to do. She became afraid, because her lover was completely opposite to her husband in appearance. After thinking and calmed down a little, she went home, deciding to tell her husband everything. He showed her a certificate of infertility. Then directly asked whose child. Well, then Olivia confessed everything. The husband, silently, packed his things and went to his parents. He couldn't forgive his wife for such deceit. Then he filed for divorce. And Olivia, what about Olivia? She was left alone. Her boss yelled at her all the time at work, only spoke to her rudely. Now she's 6 months pregnant. She has never seen her ex-husband again, although she tried, called him, asked for forgiveness, but such betrayal, I doubt that any man will be able to forgive.
You know, maybe someone will judge me, but I don't understand such girls who live with good husbands and still look to the left and start walking. If you got married and decided to live with him all your life, why cheat? And, if you didn't get married, then why get married at all? I believe that only a complete fool is capable of cheating on a loved one.
Thank you for listening to the end. Subscribe and like. Bye. Dear subscribers and viewers of our channel, it is very important for us to understand what you like and what you don't like. Please do not hesitate to share your opinions in the comments.
Friends, today we want to bring to your attention a video in which 4 ladies and 4 gentlemen will give their opinion on what percentage of married people cheat on their partners. What do you think? Your opinion is very important to us. Be sure to write what you think about it after watching it. Says Nathaniel.
Look, I know you'd really like some solid facts and figures for this. It's been asked millions of times, all over the world. Nobody knows the true number. Some say as high as 90%. Some say 13% of women and 20% of men cheat on their spouses. In Australia, over 50% have cheated on their spouse. In parts of Europe, France, etc., it is also over 50%.
Sociologists have come up with the conservative figure that as many as 30% of children in the US are unknowingly being raised by fathers that aren't their biological dads. As in the fathers don't know they aren't their children. That's scary, sad, and disgusting. And I'll admit, it makes marriage a very unattractive proposition. Infidelity sucks. The idea that someone you trust, someone you opened yourself up to, and trust on a daily basis, to be your partner, has betrayed that trust and stabbed you in the back. It's disgusting. Maybe infidelity should carry a punishment with it. Legal and criminal. Or maybe marriage is an outmoded concept, and humans aren't worthy of trust. I don't know. I truly do not. But I do know that infidelity is high enough, that maybe trust itself is an outmoded concept. I'll post some of the figures I have saved. The guesses have a wide range of numbers. It's sad, it really is. It's no wonder the level of trust, for both sexes, is as low as it is. We have no reason to trust each other. None. And it is tiring. It really is. I don't know how some people say over 70% of people cheat on their partner. Men and women. I haven't found those high of statistics anywhere. But, I would agree that over 20% of both men and women cheat on their spouse. I'd say somewhere between 30 to 50% do cheat. Just sexually. That's without counting the emotional cheating and other forms, that some people would count. Which begs the question, again, why get married, if we are going to betray each other in such large numbers? Fuck that shit. Why be legally bound to someone who can't be trusted? Why work your ass off for someone else, when they will just stick that knife in, and twist as hard as possible? I don't see the attraction to an outmoded idea, not in today's society.
Chris speaking.
Although I kept my data confined to North America, the trend to have an affair is a global problem. Here's some background to put the cheating in context. The male sex drive. The degree of sex drive men feel is confusing to women who have a normal libido. A woman's sex drive is like going to a fancy restaurant. It's nice when it's there, but not a necessity. Men's sex drive is like a starving man rummaging through a dumpster for scraps. Sex drive for men is like being thirsty and needing water or having an itch that needs to be scratched. If a man goes for more than a week without sex, it's all he can think about. His penis feels like it's going to burst and masturbation helps a bit, but not much. I've spoken to other married women in the past and I've noticed that women tend to have a more, I want to have sex with someone I find attractive view, and married men have a more, I want to have sex. If she's attractive then great, if not, oh well. Of course, there are good reasons for this. We are all basically breeding machines programmed to breed as much as we can. When a married woman is exhausted from the stresses of work and childcare, sex is about the last thing on her mind. While most women probably know that men have a stronger sex drive, I don't think most know that it's physically and psychologically uncomfortable to go without sex. Hence, this is where cheating rears its ugly head. In general, men are more likely than women to cheat. 59% of men and 23% of women reported that they've had sex with someone other than their spouse while married, according to data from the recent General Social Survey, GSS.
Ajay speaks.
Every man won't cheat on you. Every man won't disrespect you. I know the world wants you to believe that men do not value relationships anymore, but we do. I know the world wants you to believe that we are incapable of giving one woman our all, but we can. I know deep down inside you are afraid of opening up and getting hurt, but guess what? So are we. Ladies, there are still men out here who value love and loyalty. There are still men out here who are patiently waiting to make you a priority. There are still men out here who want to court you and win you over the right way. Some of us still believe in taking care of your soul and your body. Some of us still believe in making you smile more than making you cry. Some of us still understand how much of a blessing it is to have that one great woman by our side. Ladies, don't let this world make you believe that we do not honor you, because we do. Don't let this world make you believe that we aren't prepared to love you, because we are. And last but not least, don't let this world make you believe that good faithful men don't exist anymore, because we do. Thank you.
And now let's hear what Claire has to say.
Hard data are, well, hard to come by. People don't often like to confess to infidelity, even in anonymous studies. The best data I can find suggests that somewhere between 30 and 60% of people will cheat at least once. That's a huge variation and reflects the poor quality of the available data. Dan Savage claims.
I give the floor to Eric.
I have been with only my wife. I have known her entire life. We grew up neighbors, our families vacationed together and spent birthdays and holidays together. We started dating 27 years ago. We have been married for 24 years, and our oldest is 23 years old, in college. My wife is, and always will be the only person that exists, romantically, mentally, and emotionally, for me. I would never cheat, emotional or physically, on my wife. She is the majority of my existence. There is no me without her or our family. Any other answer, I would question the happiness in such a relationship and marriage.
Jesse answers.
My mom, Maureen, is having sexual affairs with at least 7 different men. My dad has no idea about this, and the guys do not know about each other. My mom does not know that I have discovered her secret.
Let's hear what Joe has to say. Don't worry, it's not Biden.
I think if people get married at an early age, the percentage of people who cheat probably shoot up like a mountain and then decrease as they get older. People who wait to get married to an older age generally avoid this issue. They say that infidelity is the second biggest reason leading to divorce, so taking all the situations that everybody knows about and assuming that there are quite a few situations that most people never find out about, I'm thinking that there's probably cheating at least one time in a marriage, specifically including people of a certain attraction level, in about 70% of marriages. The two main reasons that made me never want to get married is I've always known about Americans' divorce rates, so from the top I wasn't interested in marriage working on a percent 50 gamble, and secondly because of not just all of the married women that I'd slept with, but also all of the married women that my best friend slept with also. I mean, between the both of us, barely anybody was handing out rejections, and if they did, it was only temporary. And only from one of these affairs did I actually cause a separation. And even in that one situation, the husband didn't know it was I who caused it. He thought she fell out of love with him. All the rest of the women that I slept with that were married are still married, the husband none the wiser. Since guys don't usually try and break up a marriage when the affair doesn't prove successful, most husbands never find out their wife cheated on them at one time.
And now let's hear from Catherine.
I'm a domestic relations attorney, so you would think my response may be skewed. But even from that perspective, being that people in happy marriages have no reason to consult with me, I would say no. Some do. Maybe even quite a few. But most don't. It's been my experience professionally that marriages end for many reasons. Affairs are one of those reasons. Not the only one, and not even the most frequent. My parents were married for 23 years until my father's death. No affairs by either. Had my dad ever been late coming home, my mom would have assumed a flying saucer abduction before she thought of infidelity. With good reason. They had that kind of relationship. If I were to use the barometer of my group of friends, the ones with whom I enjoy a close enough relationship so as to know what's going on in such a private part of their lives, I would say a resounding no. One very close friend has been married twice. Her first husband, to whom she had been married for 14 years before their divorce, had affairs recklessly and often. She divorced him, of course. And 35 years later, unaccountably, he still resents her doing so. Her second husband, to whom she was married for 20 years until his death, never did and wouldn't have dreamed of betraying her. Another close friend has been married to her husband for over 40 years. No affairs. Another for well over 30 years. Ditto. A third was married for almost 40 years until his death. No affairs. 4 friends. Plus my parents. 6 marriages in total. One of those 6 marriages ended as a result of extramarital affairs. So, no. Not most. Not even close.
Thank you if you listened to the end. Subscribe, like and comment. Bye.